Today, I want to look at this code challenge, the MicroBlog challenge on exorcism.org. This is pretty cool in that with all the different social media platforms that give you access to 280 characters and more, the idea here is that we want to shorten it down to just 5 characters. You can type whatever you want in there, but we're only going to display 5 characters, right? Which is kind of compelling when we see at least one of the examples in emojis. But right now, the cool thing here is that this is going to give us some experience using some UTF-8, some UTF-16. UTF-16 is kind of how they do things like Chinese or Asian languages. And a lot of the emojis are also UTF-8. They are multi-byte characters. So if we try to get just a piece, it's not going to work. It's going to display as junk, okay? And they talk about that here, where the A and the emoji, right? The A takes 2 bytes, but the emoji takes 4 inside of UTF-16, okay? So some really good read up there. But jumping right into it, I have the code over here. Lots of different sample text. I did run a lot of this through translators to make sure that none of it was too naughty. But if the translator was wrong and you're looking at something that is highly offensive, please don't blame me. That comes from exorcism.org. So hopefully nothing offensive in there. But we can definitely get this done. So with all these examples, we can go in here and just return input.slice. This is a string, so we can slice on it. And when we slice on a string, we get a string back. So we don't need to join it up or anything like that. We want the first character to the 5th character, okay? That would be 0 to 4 index, okay? If we run out, not a problem. Slice is okay with that, but now we do this. If we run it, we get pretty much what you would expect in the languages, right? They all seem to be working really well. Even the math is doing really well. But then we start to see some funkiness inside of the emojis. Fly, we seem to be missing part of the airplane here. Or something's going on with the airplane. The haircutting one is pretty okay. For some reason, this 2 adults and 2 children turned into just 2 adults. Very weird stuff. And then, of course, we only got 3 characters for this part and 2 cards and some missing data. Okay, it's broken. So what's going on? Maybe the problem is that we should have split first, right? Like input slice. Maybe we could have done return input.split, okay? Split on empty characters to make sure that we get it right. And then slice, and then 0 to 5 like this. And because now it's an array, we have to join it up. So we do that part. And we clear this out and we run it. And we get the exact same thing. So that's not going to do it. But in order to understand this, I want to grab this character here, okay? This haircutting one. And I want to take a quick look at it. Here we go. I have that. In fact, I'm going to split it. Okay, split just like this. And on empty characters. If this was going to work, I should just get that character back, right? It should be an array of one thing. The haircutting emoji. Get rid of these for a second. Run it, and we get, 2 characters. Well, again, this is UTF-16, and emojis are multi-byte characters. So if we won't see it in CodePen, but if we open up DevTools, we can see that we get 2 Unicode characters, two Unicode code points. Okay, not characters, but code points. Those 2 code points join to make a single character. Okay, so that's part of the problem. That when we split, we are getting way too much. It's splitting way too much on us. Okay, which leads to what we're seeing here, we are currently using what I'm going to call old JavaScript. Okay, split and slice. These have been around for a long, long time. So long, in fact, that we didn't really have emojis back then. We weren't using all of the 65,000 characters that we could use. And so a lot of these methods, they didn't have to deal with that back then. And so they didn't. They only dealt with UTF-8. Thankfully, with new JavaScript, we did account for that. Or the people that are building and maintaining JavaScript did think of that. So instead of splitting, we can go array.from. Array.from is still pretty new. We can do that. The back half of this, we are just going to copy and paste. And now, if we clear this and bring it all back, turn that one off because we don't need that one right now, but we can run it. And now we're getting close, okay? There's still something funky going on with this one here. It only has one child, right? 2 adults and 1 child, but everything else seems to be working really well, right? We could, of course, change this to be return, split the input just like this, spread it out, and then, of course, all that stuff, comment this out, clear it, run it, and all the same stuff, okay? We could go further. We could do a loop, right? So we could test for character code points if we wanted to. This is a little bit old school, so bear with me for a second. We are going to get that input, and we need a place to store it, okay? So we're going to create a new string, and we're going to add to that string. Down here, we have a for loop. So let I equal 5, equal 0. I is less than 5, because we still only want 5 characters, and increment it, okay? Just like this, and then down here, we return new string, and we're going to add stuff in there, right? That's what I said already. So we need to test for that code, okay? And the way that we test for that code is we get in here and we set new string plus equals input dot slice what, right? That's the question. Slice 0 to question, okay? In order to answer that question, we need to figure out if the code point we're on is a single byte code point or a multi-byte code point, okay? So we can do that. Let's go const num, because it's going to be a number one way or another, okay? We're going to set that equal to input.at 0, okay? At is amazing. If you haven't started using it, I definitely recommend it because at -1 is just so much cleaner than going input.length -1, right? But for now, we just want 0. If you really, really wanted to, you could do it the old school way. Does not matter for this one, okay? Triple equals, because we're comparing it, only 3, not 4. Thank you. And we are going to get input dot code point, capital P, code point at 0, okay? Now there's a problem here. Code point at is going to return the Unicode for this, which, as you saw when I open up my dev tools, it's /u and 4 random characters, okay? Not completely random, but this is definitely never going to equal input 0. We need to convert it back to a character, and we do that with string. So string from what? From code point. That's what it was. I almost forgot that. Took me a second to remember. But there we go. We have input 0 equals whatever the code point is here. And now we do the thing. If they're equal, then we can assume that it's one of these characters, a simple one where we only need to slice off one character. If it is not, then we can assume that it is two characters, right? We need the first Unicode code point and the second Unicode code point. And those two things together are going to join to form our emoji. From there, we can go number, whoops, just like this. We get that number, and this is going to break, okay? This is going to break because now, well, isn't that fun? That's breaking in a whole new way. Oh, right, because I forgot. How do we increment it, right? Right here, I would say increment input equals input.slice number, okay? So we're going to peel off enough Unicode code points to make a letter. And then from there, we are going to slice from the input slice from the next position to the end of the line, okay? And this is going to break. We're going to see an error here because high only has 2 letters and we're asking for 5. So what is it looking for once we've passed those letters, okay? We can fix that really quick. We can just go if not input 0, okay? So if there's nothing in the input, then break, okay? That means we're going to leave the loop, which is going to allow us to return, which means we should be okay. And it works, right? It works just like the old one, except for this character down here. We'll get to that in a second. So this works. We could use some newer JavaScript, right? So we could take this down, and then instead of all of this, we could just grab this and go dot is well formed. Did I get that right? Is well formed? Yes. Okay. So if it's well formed, that means if the piece that it has is able to be displayed as an actual character, then it's probably one of these, okay? Which means that we only want one. If it is not well formed, it probably means that we need an extra piece. So all of this, we clear it out, we run it, and we get exactly the same thing. This character just does not want to play, okay? So let's go take a look at that character. I'm going to grab it just right here, okay? And I'm going to console log that. Again, I'm going to try and split it on every character, okay? Closing this out or commenting this out so that we can see what's going on, clear it, run it, and we get 11, an array of 11 items. If we go and look at the dev tools, we open that up, we get 4 sets of characters, okay? That's one. And then there's a zero with space here. And then 2, 0 with space, 3, 0 with space, 4. In fact, if we go and grab this really fast right here, and I zoom in so that you can see it a little bit better. Come on, get there. Okay. So if I go left, you're going to see that it jumps through the middle of that character. It's very interesting, right? I can just go back and forth in this character. It's weird. And then if I'm back here and I backspace instead, oh, well, there's that character that we saw, the 2 adults and 1 child. If I backspace again, I get nothing because of that 0 with space. Oh, didn't we see that near the beginning? Right? It was pulling off two adults, right? And then nothing, and then this and nothing, and we're back to it. So what we actually have is something called a ligature, okay? And a ligature, if I open up a new tab and go ligature, just like this, okay? A ligature is a way for the font to join two letters together to make it look nicer, okay? Fonts, in case you didn't realize, fonts are a special kind of application. They kind of run on their own merit. And so when it sees two characters like the F and the I, it realizes that this hook on the F gets way too close to the ball of the I, and so it joins them together. And this is something that the font maker has to do, right? It's not every single font. Same with the F and the L. Same with a whole bunch of other letters. I think T and H do this as well, right? So these are ligatures, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. We can actually see that by changing this to be, let's console log again, array from, right? Because that was kind of working up here. So array from that string. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to grab it all, paste it in, clear it out, run it again. And now we get an adult, that zero space width, an adult, space, child, space, child. Okay. So when the emojis run into this pattern, they automatically collapse it down to be just one character. And that's tricky business because, again, that character is in there. You can see that cursor moving, right? If I'm in the middle here and I delete something, see, it pops out because it doesn't know how to do that, okay? I must have deleted a space. If I go back one more and go again, right, it changes the game to an adult and two children, which is very interesting, right? It's cool how it's done that. Now, the key is that we can actually get it to interpret this as a single character. But in order to do that, we need to use even newer technology. And this is so new that in some versions of Firefox, it still doesn't work. So if you are still running an older version of Firefox, this might not work for you. It definitely won't work inside of Exorcism, as far as I know. Or maybe it will by the time you watch this, okay? So we get something called the segmenter, okay? And the segmenter is going to allow us to separate text based on certain conditions. This all comes from the INTL interface, which on there it has a capital S segmenter, okay? And we definitely do need to call new on that, okay? Now, we set this up and we can do a few things. We can set it up to use specific languages. So I could set ENUS in here, or China, right? If I was working in a Chinese language, or Japan, or various other languages, okay? I could totally do that. It is optional. If you leave it off, it will try to figure it out on its own. And in this case, that works for us. We can also pass in some options here. One of those is granularity. Just like, larity. Brilliant. And granularity allows us to dictate how it's going to break this apart. So if we had a long block of text, we could break it apart by sentences, by words, or by graphemes, okay? A grapheme is a distinct image of text, okay? That's an oversimplification, but it works for us. Just like a phoneme is a distinct sound in language, a grapheme is a distinct image in text. So the J here is a grapheme, okay? The man is a grapheme when it's represented this way. Now that we have this, we can use it, and it works really, really well. So if we comment this out, let's start again with a test. So inside of here, I'm going to set up my segments, okay? Those segments are going to use the segmenter, so we definitely need that. And on the segmenter, we have segment. It gets to be a bit of a mouthful, but stay with me here. Then we send in our input. So at this point, we've told the segmenter that we want to do something with our input. We want to break it apart into distinct chunks. Okay. If we want to iterate over this, there are a few ways to do it. The most complicated way is something called the iterator. So it's symbol iterator like this, and it is a method. So we have to add the brackets, okay, add the parentheses. But now we are iterating over something. If you've ever used generators, you might have seen this, and you'll definitely have seen what I do next, because I've used generators in a few of my videos, right? So console log, and we get the segments next, just like this. In fact, that works so well that we can just copy and paste this like this. I don't know how many times. That seems like enough, okay? To make this easy, I'm going to reduce this down. So I'm going to cut it to just these ones, okay? That way we can see what it looks like with some text. We can see what it looks like with some emojis, just like this. We run that, and we get a series of objects, or an error. What am I missing here? Iterator, what? Iterator, there. Let's try it one more time. Sorry. Typing. There we go. So this, if I can scroll right to the top, we get an object which has value and done, okay? Again, if you've watched some of my other videos that talk about generators a little bit, you'll have seen done before. Not necessarily value, but done is in there. And done is the iterator's way of telling the system that there's no more. So done is false for the H because there's more letters. After the I, done is false, but the next one is undefined and true. And we can totally use that to our advantage. Now, if we keep going down, we will see undefined, undefined, undefined. It just keeps going. But look at this. This character is exactly what we want. It's segmented perfectly, okay? Again, there was only one of them, so the next one is going to be true, true, true. We can use that to our advantage. All the way down to the characters, breaks it apart individually. It is awesome. Using it this way is not awesome. So let's go change this to something just a little bit more comfortable. Instead, we will use a for loop again. In fact, I'm just going to grab this because it is exactly the same thing for the moment. Cool. And close it out. Okay. Again, we need a place to store our letters. So let output equal this. Okay. I think before I used what? New string, output. Okay, output. And of course, return output. Okay. So inside of here, we are going to loop through. We're going to get the next element. Okay. So we're going to capture that right here. And that's going to give us this object. Okay. Inside of here, we can test if segment.done, right? That's the true or false. If segment.done, break. We're wasting time if we don't break. So let's do that. And then output plus equals segment.value.segment. Okay, that's a mouthful. Again, lots of that in there. Okay. If I've done this right, we can turn all this back on, just like this, run it, and we should get exactly what we came for, including that very special emoji. Everything is beautiful in the world. It is awesome. We can clean this up a little bit though, so let's keep going, okay? So instead of all of this, okay, I'm going to copy and move this down. We're going to clean this up just a little bit because we don't need these console logs anymore. But again, I don't really like this. This is a bit of a hot mess. So let's just get rid of that, okay? And then right here, I'm going to grab this part and go array.from segmenter segment. Okay. So we segment it, and then array.from will do that work for us, which is awesome. In fact, we can take it a step further. If we really wanted to, we could slice it 0 to 5, okay? At which point we have a very interesting situation, because we don't really need this loop anymore. We don't need to know that it's 5. We already have 5. We just need to add it in, okay? So maybe we go let car of segments, okay? Just like this. It's an array, so it should be of. And then down in here, we change the game, okay? Most of this we do not need anymore. In fact, we won't get it. So once we start using array from, we don't get that done anymore. That done was only used for the iteration, which happened here. And then it takes that off, and all we get are the values, okay? So the values are here, which means that car is the values. We can do that just like this, which gets the segment. We run it, and we get everything that we expect, okay? So when we use array from, we don't really get that done. We only get the values. That's important to remember. And then here we can call on each individual value and just reach in and grab that segment. Now, of course, this is all good, but we can do better, okay? Maybe what we need to do is move to a map or something else, right? We can start by removing this. Let's go and grab this part here, okay? And we can make this just a little bit shorter by spreading into this. It'll work exactly the same, okay? And then because we have this, if we change it, we can use something like map just to reach in and get that information and then kick it out the door. So all of this right here, instead of this loop, we can go return segments.map, and it's going to be what? Let's keep on this roller coaster with segment, because segment.segment is a mouthful, okay? But at this point, we have it. We can run it. We're doing really good. Oh, I forgot to join. How about that? It's an array. We need to join on these characters. Boom, one more time, run it. Brilliant, okay? If we wanted to, we could just return straight off of this, like this. We slice it, and then we map it, and then we join it. It's kind of one line. I mean, kind of one line, okay? So we could do something like this. We could also go a little bit further. Whoops. Let's comment this out first. And whoops. Why is it doing that? There it is. Good. We got it. One more time, we're going to change this back. And here's the interesting thing here for me, okay? We're going to take this back and make it array.from. And the reason that I want to do this is because array.from, it not only takes this thing to create an array from, but it also takes a map function, which is right here. So since we're processing the array, we can paste that in and delete this. At which point we clear it, we run it, and it just looks a little bit neater, okay? So what have we done? Well, we have gone quite a bit, right? We've done quite a bit of stuff. And a lot of the second part of this lesson has just been around this ligature, right? It's not really an icon by itself. It's a series of icons that the font turns into a single icon, a single display. Just like the F and the L and the, in this case, S and T, right? It changes them for us, okay? So we had to work around that. if we didn't have to work around that, we could get here very fast, right? If we were just working in English, we could split a couple different ways. If we were working with basic emojis, I don't know what basic means, but I'm going to use that word. We could use some newer JavaScript. We went through and tried a few different loops, especially with is well formed, which in theory should have worked, but didn't, right? And then we switched to this INTL segmenter, and we went according to grapheme, which meant that it broke it apart by individual images. I'm air quoting right now because it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but broken into pieces that make sense visually. Okay. And then played around with that a little bit. So we saw that we can do some special stuff with next if we wanted to, right? To manually iterate over it. We can also loop over that. We could get the array from it. We could spread it and then map over it and join it. Or the final bit was using array from and using its second argument, which is a map function. So while from is running, it's also going to run this map function, which saves us an extra step in theory. And there it is. We did a ton of work really just for this one character, right? That's this one little character here, super annoying, but you might want to use it, right? Or you might want to let other people use it if you were building a similar product where you have to account for these different characters, okay? Or where you have to truncate text, right? You don't want to break the icon. So you have to worry about stuff like that. And we went and looked at a bunch of different ways to do that. And hopefully now it's a little bit easier, right? If there was another way, I think someone tried to use regex in the forums on Exorcism. Some very interesting stuff there. Still doesn't work with this, but I mean, still cool, right? Still cool. So definitely check it out. If you have comments or if you found another way that's equally cool, please share it in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.